I'm Allie. I came out after 20 years of marriage and I have 3 kids.
I'm Melissa and I have 2 kids and I came out at 37 after an 11-year marriage.
This podcast is about coming out later and the struggles and victories that come with it.
When coming out feels like the end of the world, but it's really just the beginning.
This is the Lesbian Chronicles. Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles.
Hi, I'm Googling what the cactus symbol is, and I think it's a USB. Allie and I, we love to joke about our lack of technical knowledge.
Well, I think in all fairness, though, we had originally, well, not even originally, but like halfway through this show, we had a real producer helping that knew everything. And then when she left, we were like latchkey kids coming in, having to make our own stuff. We didn't know what was happening, so we've had to learn on the job.
We have, and let's forget about the fact that I have a degree in broadcast journalism, but
I know,
no big deal.
But things I'm sure have changed so much.
That's true. That degree is in 2003, so I don't even think the USB port existed. Maybe it did.
What is embarrassing, though, is that every single time I set it up, it is always like I'm looking at something for the first time. I'm like replugging stuff in. It's like I rely on you too much.
After 3 years of doing this?
Yeah, I still have to relook at every chord and try to figure it out. Anyway.
But we're doing it. We're doing it. And today we have a lovely guest with us.
We do, that I'm really excited about because Kirsten, I love your show, Slo Pitch. That's where I originally found you. And so that show to me is hysterical because it blends gay people with the type of show that I love, which is like The Office. Such a funny show. Like, I've laughed so hard I have to rewind it and play it again. So anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Are you anything like your character?
I mean, yes and no. Yeah. Joanne's
amazing.
She's amazing. She's a bit butchier than me and probably better at sports than me. But the bit of an idiot goofball is that's me. That's all me.
Okay.
It's all you.
Well, then she's amazing. And so when I saw her, and actually now even like my first impression of you, I was like, wow, you're not like her at all. Like, I think I pictured Joanne coming on, and then I'm like, no, it's not Joanne. It's not Joanne.
It's a TV show out.
I know, exactly. Well, that just
I've been at like events where for Slo Pitch where I've had makeup on or something, and people are like looking at me and they're like, oh, hi.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not so sweaty in a baseball uniform. Yeah.
It's hilarious. That show is so good. It's called Slo Pitch for anyone listening. We're going to post it after this show because it is truly hysterical. And I don't say that all the time. Like most of the time I don't laugh when I'm by myself out loud at shows, and I laughed out loud by myself at that show.
Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah. It's really
so fun to make.
Do you do any of the writing?
No, I jumped on, and I was like a late addition to the team because I think I'm like, can I say this? I guess we'll find out. If not, I'll let you to tell you to please edit it. But there was a breakup, and so I was replacing somebody's ex partner.
Oh my God, that happens.
Yeah, it was like late in the game. Honestly, as an actor, weirdly enough, that happens to me a lot. I'd like get gigs because someone's like, oh, this person couldn't do it last minute, come in. And I'm like, woohoo.
There was a breakup.
Yeah, it's not always breakups, but that would be wild. But yeah, so they had done like a teaser to get money, and I wasn't in that. And then I had a little web series on, like I do come from live comedy world. So I had this little web series where I play a dude called Courtney who was going through a divorce, and Jay Stevens, who's the director and one of the creators, watched that and they liked it, and so we had a meeting, and then the
rest is history.
The rest of it is history.
I guess we kind of skipped this part, but for listeners who may not know
Yeah.
your work, kind of give a quick rundown.
Yeah, give us who
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Kirsten Rasmussen, and I live in Toronto right now. I'm up in Canada, and I do live comedy. I come from the improv and sketch world, so make 'em ups and some write 'em downs, and then started doing more acting in TV and film in the last 10 years. And I've bopped around Canada. I grew up in small town Saskatchewan, did schooling and started comedy in Edmonton. These names may need
I know all these
to
names.
you. Oh, you know? Okay, great.
Yes.
And then I lived in Montreal for a few years, and then I came to Toronto, did stuff with like Second City here.
That's awesome.
That is
wow.
awesome.
Yeah, it was super, super fun. I still like teach improv and sketch and do some shows here and there, and then audition and write. And
Are you always, do you play typically funny characters like Joanne?
Yeah, I would say for the most part. Like I don't have a huge list of TV and film credits, but like a lot of it's like kid TV where I do get to play these like huge characters. Like on Dino Dana, I play a character called Coach Powers, which was really fun because my nephew ended up seeing it and was like, "Oh, Annie Kirsten," which was very cute. And yeah, so those are kind of like bigger characters. I think like kids TV and comedy goes so well together. And then yeah, I would say mostly comedy stuff I've done.
Now, I saw one of your credits was Schitt's Creek.
Yes, yeah, that was my first TV credit, and I was so scared. It was great. It was like I played a bank teller in, I think it's season 2, in an episode called Moira's Nudes, and it was great. I met Eugene Levy and Dan Levy, and they were very nice.
That show
That's
is
awesome.
hysterical too.
Yeah, it's very funny, and it was very cool. Like being a comedy person, being a Second City person, I was just like, I was so starstruck by Eugene Levy. I was just like, oh my God. Like my voice went up 5 octaves. I was like, nice to meet you, sir. And Dan Levy was so nice. He was like, oh, Dad, Kirsten does stuff at Second City. And Eugene Levy was like, oh, you serve the food there? And I was like, no, I work there.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So intimidated by his beautiful eyebrows.
Yes.
That's amazing.
His best role to me was Best in Show. Did you ever see Best in Show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a minute.
God, he is hysterical in that.
I want to say it's on Hulu right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a great one
That
for
is a
sure. And
great
he
one.
is just like a legend. I would have been the same way. Like I would have not known what words were.
Yeah, I was just like, wah, 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 wah.
Some people like that too. Like they're funny even when they're not trying to be funny. Like their face, just like you picture funny. It's Will Ferrell is that way to me. Like I look at Will Ferrell and I just start laughing. Like he's not even doing anything funny, but it feels funny.
Yeah, I think like
Eugene
one of my
Levy has that vibe.
One of my like niche favorite things is comedians in more dramatic roles.
Yeah.
And like Will Ferrell, Stranger Than Fiction is one that I like him in. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, even like Jim Carrey in that Charlie Kaufman film, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I was like, I love watching comedians just ugly cry.
Have you ever seen
It's true.
1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams?
Oh my gosh. I don't think I have.
No.
I just watched it again the other day and it's so good. Like it's so wild to see him in that kind of role. But that's on Hulu right now. So
Playing a little creep. I don't know if we have Hulu in Canada. I don't think.
Oh, really?
No.
Are you born and raised Canada, or is Canada like your home?
Yes, yeah, I was born in Saskatchewan.
Okay,
Which is, north of North Dakota, I guess.
Well, tell us about your
Northern North Dakota.
tell us about your coming out. Like, how long have you been out as a gay woman?
Yeah, so I've done a bit of bip bopping, I will say.
As we do.
As you do. I didn't. I grew up in a very small town, like almost more churches than people there, in Saskatchewan, and didn't really have any examples. And I think, kind of felt like maybe as a kid, like I was like, something's up. And I was like, I think I'm a pervert who might go to hell.
Clearly.
I think is what it is. And I was especially confused because I knew about gay people, but I was like, I think I like men and women. And so then I'm just a sex pervert.
Clearly.
Who's probably going to go to hell. And then I moved to Edmonton for university, and there was the queer community there. So I I was in women's studies, took a women's studies class.
Oh yeah.
met the queer community. And then very quickly I was like, okay, I don't think it's safe to be bi here. And I was kind of confused because I was like, I know that I'm attracted to women But the kind of few friends that I made was kind of like, it kind of just seemed like for the women there who did date women, if they then dated a man, they were like cut off.
Okay, so you're saying it was okay to be a gay woman, it wasn't okay to be bi.
It wasn't okay to be bi.
Okay.
And it was a small community, and I don't blame it. So this is like 2002, 2003, 4.
Yeah.
That this would have been happening. Those were my first years of university. And I definitely I look back at it, but it scared me, I think.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was like, just kidding. And I ended up dating like other bi women who were also unsure. So then that was weird because it was just like two bi women being like, what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. But are they admitting it to you too? Like, are you confiding in each other that we're bi?
I think I was more clear than the women I dated. Like the two. So I went on a few dates with like someone who was like really out, who not really out, but like who was confident, but there was no sexual chemistry between us. So I was like, please, maybe this will, and then I was like, no, I'm not attracted to you, and that's okay. And then the two women that I kind of fell for were now I think would come out as pan or bi, but at that time they were like, I'm straight, and I don't know what this is. I don't know what this magic is.
Yeah.
Well, and back then there wasn't all this terminology, like and what kind of search engines did we have for like, it was Hey Jeeves, like what were you going to look up online?
Yeah. So I ducked back in the closet. So like the only kind of people, like I'm close with my siblings, so they kind of knew because they knew that I was dating a woman, and then I ducked back in and I moved a bunch. And so when I moved to Montreal, I just kind of like, it just didn't really come up, I guess. I just kind of like hit it, and I was really focused on comedy. And so
but then with women, because like Montreal's a big city, like you'd be on a set and there's a woman, are you kind of like, yeah, I'm interested, but I can just kind of blow it off because I'm busy working? Like what would come up for you?
Yeah, it was weird because I knew Montreal was like a queer city. I knew there was queers there, but I was so focused on live comedy, and the live comedy there is also divided by like it's a big city, but the English city inside of it is kind of small. And then within the English part of the city, it's like most people my age were like following their passion. So there was like the musicians, there was the comedians, there was like the roller derby girls. I feel like all the queers were doing roller derby.
That's true here too.
And I was just trying to do as many comedy shows as I could. So trying to get those, Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours, I guess. So I was so focused. Yeah, I was so focused on comedy that I was kind of like, and then men would hit on me and I'd be like, well, this is easy. But it was always there. It was always like me kind of looking around, but I also felt pretty invisible, I guess. Like I don't think I read queer, or my community was just so hetero. The comedy community at that time was just so hetero, I guess.
And you were in your early 20s, like fresh out of college? That was
now like late 20s.
Okay, late 20s.
That I was in Montreal. And then I came to Toronto. And like everyone that I was close with, like all my partners, like I didn't have a lot of long-term boyfriends, but the ones that I did, they all knew I was pan, like they all knew I was bi, because it would come up, of course, in terms of like, you're talking about fantasies, you're talking about what you want. I'd be like, yeah, I like women. And they were all like, yeah, in a way that I was like, well, I don't know about how, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But not with you there.
You're not understanding me. If this is working for you, you're not understanding me. But weirdly enough, looking back, I think a lot of the dudes I dated were also bi and still closeted. I don't think any of them are really out, but I think a lot of them had experiences too. So it just shows like spectrum, and what we're attracted to, I think, is kind of magical. But yeah, I think it was when I was like 33, my grandmother, who I was really close with, like my parents had a nasty ass divorce. I said that funny, divorce. And our grandma kind of took care of my siblings, and she was coming to the end of her life. And I think there was a part of me that was like, okay, I'm 33. Yeah. It's my Jesus year. What, am I going to do this? I was in like a pretty toxic on and off thing with this dude. And I was like, I could see that life. And I was like, I need to shake it up.
Yeah.
And I took myself to Boston for a comedy festival. And the first day I was there, I did some shows and I was walking around and I met this woman, and immediately, like, just the way that we looked at each other, I was like, oh my God, she knows I'm queer.
Yeah.
And we hung out the whole weekend.
And wait a minute, time out. Is the boy back home thinking, the boy back home is like, knows that you guys are on the outs, or was that totally over and you went to Boston?
It was just as like one of those crappy relationships
like,
where
you know, it's going to end.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was
okay.
always off, always on, always confusing and messy.
Okay. So you get to Boston feeling like you're not attached really, because this is never going to last. Okay.
Yeah. And I meet this woman, and immediately it was just like, I felt so excited. I felt the tingles, and I hadn't felt that for a woman since Edmonton, since like for 12 years. I hadn't felt that. I hadn't had that, and had it reciprocated as well. And we didn't have to talk about it. She didn't ask me my sexuality. She didn't ask me my identity. We just hung out all weekend. And I was like working up the courage to give her a smooch. And it was like, we're having brunch and I was about to get on my flight, and I chickened out. And then on the taxi to the airport, I was like, oh my God, I really wish I would have kissed you. And she was like, I'm glad you didn't. I'm in a relationship.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh God, I thought you were going to tell me something like turn around, and we turned the cab around.
But it was still, it was so weird because she was in a relationship with a dude. She had been with women her entire life until this relationship with the dude. And I felt like, so it felt like we were these like cool ships in the night. I'm doing, for all of you listening, I'm doing some fun arm movements.
Yes. Yes. Sliding doors.
I felt like we were like ships in the night, and it gave me so much confidence, that experience. And her and I ended up keeping in contact. She sent me some videos about how to have sex with women. It was great.
And then what happened to her?
She's wonderful. She's still doing comedy. I think, we kept in touch for a little bit. I think last time we talked was over the pandemic, but yeah, it was good, very good vibes. She's still with her partner.
The guy.
Okay. So, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Allie's devastated.
I don't like when people go back.
Well, that's the fear. And so, but again, I didn't really fully come out to like my whole comedy community until I started dating my now wife, Catherine, and she's also in my community. And so when we started dating, then everyone was like, "You're queer, we knew it." And then there's a bit of fear in me, I think, from my past experience. I was like, I'm bi, I'm pan, actually, just in case this doesn't work out. I don't want you to hate me.
Yeah, you can't lock me into this.
Yeah.
How did you meet Catherine?
So she does comedy as well.
Okay.
And so I'd seen her in a bunch of shows, but I didn't know she was queer, and she didn't know I was queer. Apparently she asked someone, and someone was like, no, she dates men. And she was like, okay. Oh. And then this wonderful comedian in our community, Tom Hearn, they initiated a queer improv group, and it ended up outing a bunch of people in our community, which was really positive, like in a very positive way, just to make that more visible in the Toronto improv community. I think it was called the Kinsey Scale.
Oh.
Kinsey Fail. Scale is the thing. It's Kinsey Fail.
Nice.
That's great.
It was very, very funny. And so Catherine was in that, and she also improvised in a show called The Lol Word, which was great. She played Dana, the tennis champ.
Oh my God.
It was very cute. And so then once I knew that she was queer, I like asked a friend about her that I knew wouldn't be able to keep it to herself. So it was
on
at
purpose.
The Fringe Festival in Toronto.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I was like, what's with that Catherine girl? And my friend Monica was like, oh, why? I was like, I think she's cute. And then like a couple weeks later, Catherine showed up at a show of mine just like smiling. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Okay, that's a yes.
It works.
Yeah.
Well, then what about the friend that told you that Catherine was not gay?
Someone told her that I wasn't. And I think it was just someone. It was
like
a student of mine who she was friends with, because I taught some of the people that she was in a troupe with, not the queer troupe, another troupe, I had taught. So they only knew me in like a professional setting.
Yeah, that's so smart to do the gay improv, because it does it's laid back, and you know, if you show up, everyone there is supportive and queer too. So it's like not a hard show up. It's an easy show up.
Yeah. And it was wild to me that it hadn't, like, here we are in Toronto, which is such a awesome city to be queer in. And I was like, wow, I can't believe this hasn't happened. But I do think like improv and sketch kind of were a little late to like stand up. I felt like there was more queer folks, more queer women specifically existing. And I think improv and sketch just took a little bit longer. It was still so hetero for so long.
Yeah.
Like if you look at like Saturday Night Live,
That's
like,
the total opposite in Atlanta. Atlanta is like a lot. It's mainly like straight men, at least in the
comedy world.
Places in the comedy world. I don't know about improv,
like stand up or improv as well. Oh,
stand up. Yeah.
I would say that.
I would just say I have more examples of being like, who's the queer stand-ups, and you can like think of people. But in improv, I was like, I don't know, everyone's straight.
So you never had to do the dating apps?
I did them once because Catherine. It took like there was a minute before Catherine and I started dating that I looked on them, and then we broke up once before getting back together. Where I was like, I'll go on here, and I had one date, and it was all right.
So did you never really played you met Catherine and that was it was it. Like that's kind of amazing.
It was the timing was like awesome and terrible all at once. I was definitely like, I'm going to spend a year and date as many women as I can.
Yeah.
And then I went on a few dates. I dated like one or two women, and then I met Catherine, and I was like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. That's a nice feeling though. I would say I was the same way. Like I thought I would date a bunch and then I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird because I had nerves, especially when like our relationship was getting to intimate levels. I was like, oh man, I wish I'd had more practice rounds.
Yeah. Or just like experience in general in everything. I mean, it's a completely different animal.
Yeah.
Yes. Like Melissa and I talk about that sometimes. Like you have to be so, like with men, it's so easy to kind of
be asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, you can be asleep at the wheel. You don't necessarily have to be so engaged and so present and so in every aspect of our relationship. Like if I'm off a little, she's calling me out on it.
Yeah.
Versus like, and I think it's a more challenging role. It's more fulfilling, but it's also more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something that comes up a lot for us is kind of like the roles we play in our families.
Yeah.
We're both the first out people in our families. I mean, for the most part, maybe there's some second cousins in Denmark where my family's from that I haven't met yet. But like, and I think especially when you're coming out later in life, you're thinking, well, I don't know. I just feel like it's come up for us. Like what do I need to prove to my family because I'm queer? Or, what,
say more about that. Like, what do you mean prove to them? Like prove that it's like
we're normal or we're
normal
family.
Situation.
Like I'm still going to have a family and I'm still going to have a career, or I'm still, and I think like it's almost similar to what being an artist or an actor feels like. It's like, like if you come from a family that's like, get a real job, like be a doctor, be a lawyer. And
you're not a serious person.
Yeah. Like what is your career? Like what are you investing in? It's almost like where you feel like, yes, I'm an actor, but I am going to make a career at it. I'm going to work at it so hard. And I feel like sometimes with queer folks, it'll be like, yes, I'm queer, but we are going to get married and we're going to have a house, we're going to have kids, and then it's like, and at some points, me and my wife just have to be like, do we want this?
Yeah. Or are we just doing it because it's what everyone thinks we're supposed to do?
Yeah. And then we're doubling down harder to
prove it. Yeah.
To prove
we have this house, we have this life that's so normal.
Yeah.
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 How is your family, like, how did you come out to them and how did they receive the news?
Yeah. The great news.
Breaking news.
The breaking news. The great breaking news. I feel like my siblings were pretty chill.
Older or younger?
It. I'm the youngest of four, but we're all within 5 years. So my brother's the oldest.
Okay.
There's 4 of us in 5 years. So they were they were great. They were like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went back in the closet for a decade. So when I started dating Catherine, or even like, I think I told them all about the person I met in Boston because it kind of blew my mind open. They were all just like, okay. And they were exciting and they were supportive, and I'm not close with my parents, but when they found out, they were both just like, oh, they didn't know what to say.
Yeah, like what does this mean for you?
Yeah. But I think extended family I was a little bit nervous about because I have some like I have a family member who's a rancher, and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tell my cowboy cousin? And then he started following Catherine on Instagram, and Catherine was like, do you know this cowboy from Saskatchewan? And I was like, that's my cousin. And she was like, he's liking all of my stuff.
Oh, he was
and
being supportive.
Like,
he's probably gay.
Yeah.
He has a wife and some kids, but man, I'm like, there's got to be more queers.
Could be Brokeback situation. Never know. They had wives. Just saying.
But I think that is so sweet when people do that. Like my extended family that I was worried about, they like show up in the sweetest ways to like, without saying I support you, they're saying I support you. Like
right.
That. Like
and that is like,
liking.
that's kind of just it. Like some people don't know how to say it. So that's how they show their support.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yes.
What about gender roles in your marriage?
I think this is so funny because I had an uncle who couldn't come to the wedding because my aunt was sick, and but he asked my sibling, which is also great. So one of my siblings is genderqueer, and they came out during the pandemic, and so that was really cool too because it was something like they were such a tomboy growing up, and I remember them being like, everyone thought I was the lesbian, but it's you. Exactly. And I'm like, ha ha. But then they came out as genderqueer, and again, just like we did not have this language years ago, so that was really positive. But my uncle asked them like, what was the meaning of Kirsten wearing a suit at Kirsten and Catherine's wedding? And my sibling was like, what is he asking here?
Yes.
But yeah, it kind of brought up an interesting thing about roles. So I'd say our roles they're like, one, they're ever changing.
Yeah.
But two, like they're definitely like, I love cooking.
Who's killing the spider, Kirsten? Who's killing the spider?
Yeah, that's the real question.
So that's a good question. Catherine doesn't like to kill spiders, so we have to trap them and take them out of the house.
That's Marina. Yeah, we got to take it outside.
This is a Maria issue too.
And she is screaming bloody murder so much that often I need to leave the room. But she's also a control freak, so
this is who I'm with. Like you're describing my partner.
Yeah, she's screaming and knows the exact right way to put the bowl on. So normally I literally leave the room or I leave the apartment when a spider comes.
But if she then can get it out?
She can often get it out, or she'll trap it and like and then I release it. So it's a bit of a
it's a group effort.
It's a group effort.
It's a group effort.
Who's getting the intruder downstairs?
Oh, so yeah, I think that's both of us. We were talking about how maybe we want to take a self-defense class together, which I think would be great. But like she drives, I cook, I communicate better. I've had more therapy. She likes video games. Yeah. But like our wedding, it was like no choice. I was like, I want to wear a suit. She's like, I want to wear a princess dress. And we were like, great.
Okay, so the princess dress though, playing the video games. You're right. Like it doesn't all. Yeah, it's like you can't pin it down. Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. If we have kids, I'll carry. Like she has no interest in that, which was interesting. Okay. I think that's okay for me to say. I'll ask her.
Yeah.
That's no, I think I like that discussion, or like to know that discussion, like that's, I mean, something I never will experience, but to hear people, long-term partners talking about like that they have that conversation of like, who's going to carry, or like, I'm going to carry this time. And then for the next one, they will, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's what we both thought going in. Like, we'll share it if we do it. And then suddenly she was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. And I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah.
It kind of sucks. You can't do like, 4.5 months and
switch
pass
it
off.
maybe in 10 years,
Would that be one of the things though, that you're like, society expects you to have this family that who knows what you really want? Or is it?
Yeah, I think like, and I think I'm one of those people that I never felt like I must have kids. I was always like, if I'm with the right person. But I think when I met Catherine, I was like, I want to do this for sure. And then kind of feeling out like, okay, is this what we want? I think the pandemic also made things weird because at a time in our relationship where we probably would have been like traveling and really enjoying each other's company, we were like shoved in an apartment together. And, so there's this feel of like, okay, how do we want to use our time? And we're both actors, so that sense, I think, of like fear of like, what will I be able to give up my drive to what I do? And I don't know, I'm older than Catherine too, so there's a part of me that's like, I'm not as worried about it. I've also maybe coming from like a crappy childhood in a broken home. I'm just like, we're great, we're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And she comes from a lovely family, and she's like, we have to get it perfect. And I'm like, nah, perfect is just, not hitting your kids and smooching them and telling them you love them, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking, I know it's not easy, I know it, I know you all can tell me, but I think there's just part of me that's like, we have the ingredients.
They need love, that's it. Like, it's like, I think people overthink it so much.
Yeah.
And you've been to therapy. That's very helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Oh.
So that makes me a better parent.
Yeah.
Our relationship started in it didn't start in the pandemic, but that was very early on in our relationship, and we moved in together quickly, and then the pandemic hit. So we had only really been together a short time, and then we're living together in the pandemic. But we look at it as like we were blending our families. So together we had 4 kids in this space together, and then the pandemic, like it was like kind of could be a war zone at times because you've got these kids and like we're learning each other. But in some ways we always joke that it's like dog years. Like we were together, like that pandemic time, you can multiply it by however many, because that's how long we feel like we've been together, because we didn't go anywhere. I mean, we were literally with each other all day, every day for 2 years, basically.
Yeah. I feel that hard.
Yeah.
It feels like sometimes when it's like, how long have you been together? I'm like, forever.
God, that's what we say. That's what we say. We're like, we double it. We're like, it feels like double. Yeah.
When did you get married?
Yeah.
We got married, so we're coming up to a year. We got married last August 18th. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. It was very fun and nerve-wracking. She's Jewish, and so our ceremony was like a Jewish ceremony plus some like inserted things from my culture, so that was very cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Is her family accepting? Oh, go ahead, Melissa.
Oh no, your question's better.
Is her family accepting of?
Yeah, it took her longer to come out too. Like, I don't want to say too much because I feel like it's her story to tell, but like she came out like her parents and her sister knew since her 20s, and then it was in our relationship that she came out to her extended family. It was like at Rosh Hashanah. She was like, I'm out. And then she's like, you're coming to Rosh Hashanah. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was so scared, but it was lovely. Everyone was wonderful.
I don't know how the Jewish community is about being like I'm Catholic, and that's like, they don't love it. But what are the do Jewish people care? Like, I feel like they're a little nicer.
I think it depends where you are. And like I think when you grew up, I think when Catherine was a teen, she didn't have any examples of anyone in her community.
Relatable.
But when we were looking for like a rabbi to marry us, we went to her synagogue, and they had no qualms about us being 2 women. They didn't like that I wasn't Jewish.
Oh yeah.
That was the big hang up.
Yeah. They don't do intercultural marriages. So we found someone else who was cool with it. So they were like, yeah, we love queer people, but you got to convert. And I was like, I'm not ready.
It's also really hard.
Seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
I want to know all the history. I think I just like being an ex-Catholic, like feeling like I was raised Catholic, and like when my parents divorced, we got kicked out of our church, like all this stuff where I'm just like, this is a mess. And obviously everything that's coming out, and especially in Canada, with like residential school victims, it's just like, it's a hard time to believe in that kind of stuff. So I feel very cynical towards, I think, organized religion, but there's so much culture with the Jewish faith that I'm like.
One thing I got to say about the Jews that I love is that they don't want, like, I always thought it was interesting that like they're not jumping up and down to have any new members. Like, they're very, like, there's something kind of cool about, we're not constantly recruiting people. We're just like really strict about I don't know, like I always felt like, Christians are always trying to reel you into their church. Like, my Jewish friends are never trying to
The Mormons are knocking on your door.
Yeah, they're banging on your door. The Jewish people are like,
I saw
"We don't
2
really
in
want
Walmart
you."
today. I was like, are you guys allowed in Walmart?
I feel like it shows how linked Christianity is with colonization. I'm just like, they are linked, those 2 things.
Yeah, that's so true. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like over the pandemic, my sibling and I, like, we're first generation Canadian on one side, and our family there's Danish, and then on the other side we're Scottish and Irish, and then we're trying to like look back at like the faiths from there, like to look back at the pagan Nordic gods and Celtic gods and be like, what was there, what was presented, and like for sure there was a bunch of queers in Vikings. I'm sure there was.
Oh yeah, of course. Right.
I'm sure there was some queer Gaelic fairies. Come on.
Somewhere.
I mean, look at the outfits. Come on.
Come on now. Come on. It's cold. It's cold up there. Everyone's getting together. Am I right? So kind of trying to look past this Christianity to be like, what was actually there before this happened?
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, congrats on your wedding and your kick-ass show. Is there anything else coming? Will that show keep going? Like I know we were learning about, like, with Canadian shows, it's like they don't go on and on like they do here. Like you get a couple seasons and then it's like you move on to another thing.
There's limited money. I mean, there's some shows that go on forever. Like we have a show here called Murdoch Mysteries that's gone on forever.
Really? Okay.
But yeah, there's just limited money. We just do not have the population you folks have down there.
Right.
So that means there's limited money. But so it was a digital series, and I think the hope is that the creators, Knox and Gwen Cuman and Jay Stevens, they're working to pitch it as a half hour. I don't know what's happening with that, but I think that's the hope.
It is so good. I don't see how it doesn't get. I mean,
it is. And it's a joy to work on. Like that, the whole cast and the whole crew, I would say like 95% were queers. And I cannot explain what a joyful set it was. Showing up to work was just like so comfortable. Everyone was chatting. Everyone was laughing. Like my voice would be hoarse at the end of the day, not just because I had to talk a lot on set, because I was laughing so much.
I wondered that, like, how do you keep a straight face? Like some of the parts where, like on the back of the jersey with pubic ass, I don't want to give it away. Like that to me is like, how are you not even I couldn't do the take. I would be like, no one look at me.
It was so fun. And I felt nervous because some of them had worked together before. I also was like the oldest by far. Like everyone in that cast and crew were like early 30s or late 20s, and I was just like, oh, grandma here
showing up. Yeah,
I was like, whoa, I feel old. But everyone was so lovely. I was so nervous. Like Chelsea Muirhead, who plays my wife in it, Sasha, I was so nervous about, like, because we had these intimacy scenes, and I showed up and she's just amazing.
Yeah.
First of all, total bombshell, and just like the kindest, friendliest person ever. It's awesome. And like, yeah, they've all been so wonderful. I've become friends with a lot of them. It was just, it was really such a joyful experience.
Because they're all funny too.
Yeah.
I think
and like,
helps.
I watch it and I laugh.
Yeah.
And there's things that I never saw, or takes that I never, because Jay, the director, is also the DOP. Okay. So they're whipping around, catching all these tiny little moments that you don't even know are happening.
And Jay, that's Perry's partner, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we love Perry too.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Perry's in Murdoch Mysteries. You want to check that out?
Okay.
Yeah, we will. We're fans.
Dancer.
And tell us where people can check out your show, the Slo Pitch.
So Slo Pitch is on IFC and Out TV. So I think on either of those. And then if, I'm in Odd Squad. If you have little ones who want to learn about math, I have a few episodes of Odd Squad. And
my kids watch Odd Squad. That one's good. I actually find it interesting.
I think it's like very funny. And there's it has so many Toronto comedians on it, which I love.
I got Slo Pitch on Amazon, I think.
Yeah, I think it's on Amazon. But in Canada anyways, you have to have an extension of either like IFC or not IFC, Out TV. You have to,
so maybe it just led me there and I didn't even know it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, that's all I got right now.
Well, we'll post it because I love it so much.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Want to support the Lesbian Chronicles podcast? Rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify.
We love listener feedback. If you'd like to share your story, email us at melissaandallie@gmail.com. That's Melissa, MELISA, and Allie, ALLI, @gmail.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Lesbian Chronicles.